we are just one day away from the final Republican primary debate of 2015, and New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is one of the two candidates making significant gains in the polls. In New Hampshire, Governor Christie has moved up to second place, while Donald Trump is still in first. And Senator Ted Cruz is seeing a historic surge in Iowa. A new Des Moines Register Bloomberg poll has him 10 points ahead of Donald Trump. Mr. Cruz has jumped 21 points since the last poll was taken in October. Meanwhile, one-time frontrunner Ben Carson, well, now he is in third place. So here to break it down with us is CBS News' Nancy Cordes and Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez, who joins me here in the studio. So Nancy, to you first, what are you expecting to hear at Tuesday night's debate from the candidates?
Well, I think what's really interesting, Vlad, is that the power structure has been totally scrambled since the last time we watched a GOP debate. Donald Trump, of course, still in the lead nationwide. But then you've got Marco Rubio gaining. You've got Ted Cruz gaining. You've got Ben Carson waning. And you've got Chris Christie, who, is still only at 2 or 3% in some of these national polls, but clearly strengthening in New Hampshire, that all important first in the nation primary state. So I think you're going to see some matchups, some people taking each other on that you haven't seen in GOP debates past.
Leslie, to that point, and Nancy's point about some people taking on some of those folks on the stage there, do we expect Donald Trump to come out swinging? Because in the past, when he has, it always bodes well for his numbers after a debate.
Sure, and I think it's going to be one of those scenarios when I feel the heat, I see the light. I mean, he's going to start campaigning like all the other Republican candidates have been in terms of being more aggressive, possibly laying out some more policy strategies. It's been very bombastic. It's been, I'm the greatest, I can build a great wall, it'll be beautiful, like all of these kind of broad statements, but no real cogent idea in terms of how he's going to do that. I think there's going to be a lot more pressure to tether him to policy ideas, tether him to his statements, and really see where he's going to land.
But, it's interesting. A lot of his campaign speeches, a lot of his rallies have been built around, I'm number one, I'm leading in every single poll. Turns out in this one, he is not leading, and I sort of wonder if that's going to make him a little bit more aggressive, specifically towards Senator Cruz.
I really do, and I think that's where you can see a lot more sophomoric mistakes. A lot of candidates, especially when they're in a very high-pressure situation, fumble in their statements. They get a little more anxious. They may jump the gun a little bit, and that's really what you're going to be looking for. Can he keep his cool, which has always been the issue. If you think back to the first debate, it's like Donald Trump's going to lose his cool. Where's he going to be? But ultimately, voters want to see a sound leader who can really take the pressure and has a good vision for where he wants to take all of America, not exclusive of just some.
Nancy, let me ask you. So it's interesting, while Ted Cruz and Donald Trump are leading, they would both lose to Hillary Clinton in a head-to-head matchup, whereas Marco Rubio would possibly win. What do you make of that?
Well, what I make of that is that because Donald Trump has been the leader for such a long time, and because Cruz has been experiencing this rapid ascent, they've been in the news for positive and negative reasons. People have been looking at their records, looking at some of the more controversial things that they've said. And so, voters, when they're asked that question, they know a lot more about Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, and that, could depress their numbers somewhat in a head-to-head matchup with Hillary Clinton, whereas Marco Rubio and Ben Carson have been a bit more under the radar. At the same time, though, I think that poll shows why the Clinton campaign is most worried about a Rubio candidacy, most worried about Rubio as the Republican nominee, because they think that he can appeal to independents, to young people, to Hispanics, to women in a way that Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, they think, can't.
And Leslie, doesn't Marco Rubio, is he not more acceptable to the Republican establishment, obviously, than one of these outsiders? I mean, we talk about Donald Trump a lot, but Ted Cruz is not loved across the party, right? I mean,
No. He has very sharp elbows in the Senate and among media commentators and such. I mean, he's a tough guy. You got to admire Cruz for his ability to campaign proficiently. It's very deliberate. He works extremely hard. He did that in Texas. That's how he won, and he was the underdog against David Dewhurst, who was a billionaire he ran against. A lot of people don't remember, and he raised 70% of his money outside the state. Ted will work hard for that vote. But Marco Rubio has tremendous appeal. It's a generational appeal. He grabs younger and over voters. And he's been in the Senate working on some really important issues. So he has the respect of the establishment. People think he can command and work across the aisle. That's probably the big difference between all of them.
Does he get the evangelical vote?
I think he can. He's going to have to work very hard to earn it. It's not something that's naturally there. It's something he's going to have to work to do.
And Nancy, Ben Carson, surprisingly, he has been struggling as people start to ask him questions about foreign policy. He doesn't seem to know those answers very well. He's been taking some trips abroad. But can he bounce back, or are we looking at the end of his candidacy?
He can, but you know, debates are not generally his best format. He's quieter, he's a bit more laid back, and so he sort of tends to get overtaken by others who are louder and more outspoken in these settings. Donald Trump, interestingly enough, who certainly takes a backseat to no one when it comes to being outspoken, doesn't do all that well in the debates either. There's something about being surrounded by people who are attacking him or taking him on in real time that he doesn't seem to like, and he tends to recede as well. He's much more confident, much more outspoken when he's on a stage by himself, and so I think that'll make things very interesting tomorrow night. If he does go after Ted Cruz, you've got to know that Cruz, who is a college master debater, he was a champion in debating, he's going to be ready for it. He'll be prepared just like Marco Rubio was prepared when Jeb Bush went after him in the last debate. He had an answer ready, and he clearly got the best of that argument. And I got to assume that Ted Cruz has a little something in his back pocket if Donald Trump tries that tomorrow night.
Yeah, and before I let you guys go, I know we got to wrap this up, but I got to ask you, Leslie, Jeb Bush, I mean, did you expect, 9-10 months ago that we'd be talking about Jeb Bush's number as low as they are right now? Is he at any chance, does he have any chance in this debate to sort of get people interested about his candidacy again?
I really do think so because of his massive.
You do think so?
I do think so because of his massive war chest. I think at the top of the ticket there's a lot of action, kind of cover going back and forth. And if it's slow and steady, looking for commanding leadership, I've always said Marco Rubio is somebody to watch out for. Ted Cruz, it's just hard for a lot of people to accept because of how far to the right he is. But Jeb Bush is going to be very interesting once you see kind of this fray at the top settle down.
Yeah, Nancy, do you buy that? Do you think Jeb Bush can sort of stage a comeback?
Maybe, but again, I don't know that that the debate will be what turns it around for him. Chris Christie does very well in debates. Ted Cruz does well in debates. Marco Rubio does well in debates. Debates have proved to be a challenging format for Jeb Bush. He's more deliberative, sort of a thoughtful guy, and that quick turnaround that those debates demand, especially when you've got so many people on one stage all trying to grab the spotlight, hasn't been his best format. Doesn't mean that things are over for him, but I'm not sure that tomorrow night is where he'll get his turnaround.
All right, Nancy Cordes, we'll be watching. Leslie Sanchez, thank you both very much. Appreciate it.